What is up everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Andrea. On today's video, I'm gonna just dive right into the topic, which is interior design resumes. I will show you my approach into creating an interior design resume. As a disclaimer, if you do not agree with any of what I'm gonna say in this video, that's okay, we can still be friends. This is just what I would do if I were to create a resume today. So without further ado, let's begin. Today I'm going to be creating a resume using Canva because I think it's very user-friendly, it's quick, and it's free. But you can also use other platforms such as Photoshop, Illustrator, Word, or PowerPoint. So feel free to use whatever works for you, but today I'm going to be using Canva to create a resume. What I'm going to be covering in this video is, first of all, what you should do before anything else, even before starting to create a resume. Second, what is the layout that I would use? Third, what things I would include. Fourth, what things I would probably not include in a resume. And fifth, I'm going to be showing you some examples of interior design resumes. So what you should be doing before you even start to create a resume is you have to do your job search. So you gotta search for the companies that are hiring so that you can apply to these jobs. You can also apply for companies that are not hiring for people because sometimes they don't really post that they're hiring for people, so it doesn't really hurt. So once you find a post from a company that it says that it's hiring, you want to actually look at the job description and the responsibilities of that job. If this job description and these responsibilities and the skills, if all of this that is included in a job post speaks to you, and if you identify yourself, if you meet the requirements, then you want to save that job. If any of the things that are mentioned in the job description are not really aligning with your profile, do not even waste time and just skip through that job. And this is important because when you are applying for a job, it's not only about you being the right fit for the company, but it's also about the company being the right fit for you. If you finally find a company that is hiring and you meet the qualifications, then you want to save that job and you actually want to do more research on the company. So go on the company's website and look at their work, what type of interior design spaces they design, what's their style, because you don't want to be working for a company whose style does not align with your interior design style. For example, if I encounter a company that focuses on farmhouse style and traditional style, I would probably not be very happy working with them. So I'm gonna skip through that job and through that company and keep on doing my research. As interior designers and in general as creative professionals, we must pay attention to the layout of your resume. Because you are a designer and what you want to do is you want to sell yourself as a designer. The first thing that you want to pay attention to is the order of the information. So the way that you order the information has to make sense and has to follow a flow and a consistency, as well as every text that's within the paper and every element that you decide to put there has to have this visual balance and your text has to be lined up. As for the colors, I would recommend you to use very neutral or light colors. I wouldn't recommend you to use very bold, dark colors because that would distract the reader from what's really important, which is really the text. However, I've seen some colorful resumes that work just fine, but you do want to be careful if you're trying to implement darker or bolder colors. In my opinion, the simpler is better, the less is more. Oftentimes we design a resume thinking that a designer is gonna look at our resume, but a lot of the times the designers or the creative professionals are not really the people that are going to be looking at your resume. Most of the times someone from the human resources department is going to be the person that's going to be looking at your resume. So they don't really care about the design being super wow. They care about the information that's within their resume. And you will have a lot of freedom to be creative when it comes to your interior design portfolio. If you haven't checked my video on interior design portfolios, I will leave it up here. You can check that out. But there you can actually be very creative and you can express yourself. As for the fonts, you want to use a font that is easy to read. I wouldn't use any crazy fonts that can distract the reader. Absolutely no typos. You want to make sure that your grammar is impeccable. If you're not very good with grammar, you can have other people read at your resume and make them revise the words. And you can also download Grammarly, which is an extension that will let you know of any grammar mistakes you may have in your text. So do whatever you need to do, but do not make any grammar mistakes. As for the size, you don't want to go under 11 or 10.5. I wouldn't go under 11, and the length should be 1 to 2 pages max. I would only do a 2-page resume if I have over 10 years of work experience. But if you can fit everything within 1 page, then that would be absolutely the best thing. So the things that I would include in my resume would be a summary. A summary would be somewhere between 2 to 4 very short sentences that are a description of where are you today as a professional. This is a very quick way for the employer to actually have an impression of you as a professional. You would include your job titles, so either that's an interior designer, interior design student. If you have any designations, I would include it here. So if you have the NCIDQ, and then the years of experience that you have. The second thing I would add would be my work experience. So if you've worked as an interior designer already, then of course you want to add that in your work experience. If you have never worked as an interior designer before, it can be very tricky to add work experience that's not related. If you have worked somewhere for 5 months and then you've switched your job and worked somewhere else and then somewhere else, you don't want to add any of those jobs to your work experience, because that tells the employer that you're not very stable and you're just jumping from company to company. You want to add that work experience only if you've stayed at those jobs for more than a year. It tells the employer that you're stable and you might stay with them for a long period of time, because that's what they want ultimately. Some people may disagree with me when adding work experience that's not related to the interior design field. So this is a very personal decision. If you want to add it, if not, that's really up to you. But the reason that I would add this type of experience, when you are in a job, first of all, if you are for a longer period of time, that is a good impression for the employer. And second of all, there are skills that can be transferable to your new position as an interior designer. So if you've worked in a retail store, you have learned things such as customer service, how to work with computers, how to solve problems. So these skills can actually be transferable to your new job. After adding the work experience, I would add the educational background. If you do not have any work experience whatsoever, then you're just gonna jump right into the educational background after you put your summary. So this is very important. Even if you've been in the industry for 10 plus years, people want to see where you went to school and where you got your degree or your education from. So never miss adding your education and which school you went to, what year you graduated, and what was the degree or the certification that you got. After the educational background, I would add the skills that I have. You can add your hard skills, which would be all the software that you know. You can also call it software, so either hard skills or software, they kind of mean the same thing. Then you're gonna add your soft skills or abilities. And these skills are not really technical, but they are more like your personal skills. There are many personal skills that you can add there, but make sure that they apply to you and that you actually have those skills. Next thing that I would add would be the associations that I am a member of or that I'm part of. And this is very important because it tells the employer that you're very active in the interior design community. So if you're part of the NKBA or the WIA here in Vancouver, any other interior design organization or association or community, you want to say that you are part of that. The last thing I would add would be the contact information. A lot of people like to add the contact information in the beginning of the resume, so next to your name. I haven't really made up my mind on what is best. You can add it in the beginning, you can add it in the end. So in your contact information, you want to add your phone number and your email address. Some people like to add their pictures on their resumes, but there really is a debate in whether you should or you shouldn't, because some people may have an impression of you by just looking at you, and I know that that is so wrong and it shouldn't be that way, because your physics don't really tell anything about you, about your skills, about your abilities, but some people just may judge you by the way you look. So that really is something that if you feel comfortable with, you can add your picture. If not, then just omit it. The things that I would probably not add in an interior design resume are the following. First of all, I wouldn't lie in an interior design resume. I wouldn't want to put myself in that type of situation. Yes, you can exaggerate your skills and your abilities and try to use sophisticated language to make it look more professional, but make sure that everything that you add in your resume is actually true. I wouldn't probably add a About Me section or a profile unless I am not submitting a cover letter with my resume. If I am submitting a cover letter, all that information about me and about my profile is gonna be in the cover letter. So you don't wanna be repeating yourself and adding it in your resume as well. If you are not submitting a cover letter, then you may wanna consider adding a About Me section. So if you are adding a About Me section, it is very important that you add the same keywords that the company used in the post in their job description. Because nowadays, when you submit a resume, there's kind of like this computer system that scans all the resumes. So if the computer finds the keywords that they're looking for and that they posted in the job description, if they find that in your resume, then your resume would actually be picked by this computer and it would actually be looked at by someone. So nowadays, that's the way that they filter resumes. I would not add bullet points to show my proficiency in the software that I use. I don't think that this is a measurable way to tell if you can work with the software. I've seen resumes where, for example, they say that they use Revit. The bullet points, it goes on a scale from 1 to 5, and they only put like 1 bullet point. So that means that you know what about Revit, like you know how to open the software. It actually can harm you. So if you don't know the software, don't add it. If you know the software, add it. I'm not really a big fan of adding those bullet points because it can mean different things to different people. Next thing is languages. I'm not really a fan of adding how many languages you speak unless guys, you meet all the qualifications, if you have all the skills that the job is requiring for. I've seen that people start adding unnecessary information, especially when they do not meet the basic requirements of the job. So if you don't meet the job qualifications, it doesn't matter if you add how many languages you speak or what nationality you have. If you know that you meet all the qualifications and you have all the skills, then I would probably add the languages that I speak. And the last thing that I wouldn't add is my address. They're really not gonna be mailing you anything, so I just think it's not necessary. That is it for today's video. I really hope that this is useful for anyone who is trying to create a resume. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.